wall of silence. Blue wall of silence. That is the street level equivalent of no snitching. So do you know how mad it is that there is a culture within the police force of no snitching? They should be the best snitchers in the world. Like, do you know how mad that is?
Early in the morning,
What's going on, people? It's your boy Cam, Topical Juice, and I'm back on your screens with another episode of Historical Juice today. Now, as you can see from the title, we're going to be looking at the police force. Now, the title says something along the lines of the most feared gang in the world, or something along the lines of that. And that's because they are the biggest gang in the world, to me, and to a lot of people that have experienced police the way they don't like to highlight on the news. You know, my experience with police since I was a kid has shaped my perception of the police force now I'm older. I've made it very, very obvious and very clear that I don't like the police in the UK, nor do I like them in the US. However, despite how much I've experienced, negative experiences I've had with the police, despite all that, I'm not biased, and I believe that we obviously need police. We need people to enforce order. My beef is not with the role of a police officer. It's the institution in which police officers are able to thrive and get away with murder. They're able to get away with murder, they're able to get away with corruption, they're able to get away with racism, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Like for instance, even this for example, blue wall of silence. Blue wall of silence. That is the street level equivalent of no snitching. So do you know how mad it is that there is a culture within the police force of no snitching? They should be the best snitchers in the world. Like, do you know how mad that is? Do you know how mad it is that on a street level here, I do not condone in snitching and ratting. If someone does something to me and I don't know them and a crime has been committed on me, I've got no problem calling the feds. That's what they're there for. Ain't no problem. But if I've done something with my friends and this and this, I ain't gonna talk, I ain't gonna say a damn thing. That's called no snitching. That's just the way it is. So imagine, yeah, you've got a police force in the US and the UK, whatever. And within that police force, they have a culture called the blue wall of silence. It's funny how the blue wall of silence sounds so much more elegant than no snitching, no ratting, doesn't it? But it's the same thing. My issue with police has always been the culture within the police force and, well, the police force in general because of what they do and what they get away with. But the role of a police officer is needed. But we need reform. We need fresh training. Do you understand? We need new laws in place to protect the people that the police are actually attacking. So last night I was looking at what was on the news and I discovered some real interesting stories about police criminality. Okay, 2 separate stories of police officers committing separate crimes. I'm gonna highlight that and then I'm gonna quickly take you on a trip down memory lane and revisit the Stephen Lawrence case. And then I'm gonna conclude with looking at what's happening in America right now with Derek Chauvin, whatever his dickhead name is, George Floyd, and the other black person that's been shot dead, unprovoked, unarmed. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate if you watch this video all the way through, not because I need it for the algorithm. Obviously I do need it for the algorithm, I'm not gonna lie about that. However, Historical Juice episodes, I really want you to watch them through because they're important. Okay, they're very important. This ain't for the sheep. This is for the people that challenge authority. This is for the people that understand hypocrisy. This is for the people that literally understands and can empathize with what's actually going on in the real world. Do you understand? So, like, comment, subscribe, and let's get straight into this. So I've just put my phone down here, got my little notes and that. The first story I want to draw your attention to is a Charlie Harrison. Okay, a PC Charlie Harrison has recently been found guilty and has been jailed for GBH. Okay, let me just run that back. A police officer has been jailed, yeah, for GBH, grievous bodily harm. On the 31st of December 2018, a man in his 40s was walking in Newham with his children. They were walking back from their mother's grave, okay? When our police officer here, who was on duty in plain clothes, pulled up in an unmarked car and he racially profiled him. That was what it was, by the way. The internal investigation from the Met Police concluded that it was a racially motivated attack. So he walked up to them in front of the kids, right, with the intention to do a stop and search, and he struck the man so hard in his leg that he fractured his knee. Okay, that was it. He saw a target, he wanted to do a stop and search, and he fractured a man's knee. So after reporting the crime in January, the IOPC decided that they would investigate internally. They would let the Met investigate, which I think is an issue. When police are the criminals or have been doing the crime, Is it wise to let the police fish them out when you've got a culture of a blue wall of silence, no snitching? When you've got corruption running deep throughout the Western governments and Western infrastructure? Either way, they did their job well this time-ish. They actually exposed it. So our police officer was sentenced to 2 years and 3 months for GBH. GBH, 2 years and 3 months, he'll be out in half. Now I don't know if they, last I checked, Boris was trying to get rid of that half sentences, but I don't really know. So why have you got, gang members? If I was a gang member, for instance, and I stabbed someone, and I got done for GBH, if I didn't get done for attempted murder, and I got done for GBH, you think I'm getting 2 years, 3 months? I know I mentioned stabbing, that's a bit different. But he fractured a man's knee on the back of a racially motivated attack. This guy is a Fed. He's a Fed. And yet, when I criticise the police force, and when people sit here and criticise the police force, by default, people get their backs up. Now, I know the type of demographic who do get their backs up is the people that don't experience the police for what they actually are, or what they're capable of, should I say. Not what they actually are, because the whole police force isn't rotten, but the institution is. Now, if you're a black man in London, you are 5 times more likely to get stopped by feds to this day. That was happening when I was a kid. To this day. 5 times more likely. Those kids quoted in the paper said they fear going out now because they watched their dad get racially attacked by a police officer. They're scared now to go out. Before I move on, I just want to make it known that our police officer who did this, he was attached to the violent crime unit. He was a violent crime unit police officer. How ironic is that he's the one committing violent crime? Next story. Recently, a police officer called DC Paul Allgood, who's attached to the economic crime unit, has pled guilty to making and possessing indecent images of children and 3 counts of outraging public decency. This is on the 8th of April, he pled guilty to this, by the way. Make note of that. On the 8th of April, he pled guilty to being a nonce in the police force. Nonce, certified paedophile. 20 devices were seized in June 2019. 2019! Yeah? On those 20 devices, USBs, laptops, all that stuff, many indecent images of children were on those media. Now, he was suspended of all duties in January 2021. He was an active police officer for 1.5 years, all while being investigated. In fact, not just investigated, he was charged. They seized and found child and indecent pictures 1.5 years before suspending him. What does that tell you about the police force? What does it tell you about the institution? A man can shoplift, a gang member can do this, this and this, and their face will be plastered all over the news for that. If it's black, brown, anyone, they're all over the news. A police officer had been charged with indecent exposure, but yet only got suspended from duties 1.5 years later. Shocking stuff. Really, really poor. Poor. Sarah Everard. Who was guilty of that? The story I did the other day, who attacked the woman. Who was guilty of that? Feds. Police officers. I have to constantly remind you, these people are here to serve and protect. Imagine if a doctor was contaminating people's medicines. That is exactly what this is. Police officers breaking the law and attacking people and killing people and assaulting people and being pedophiles. That is exactly the same as an air pilot purposely putting the wrong oil in the police in a plane. That is exactly the same as a doctor purposely giving the wrong people medication. They are abusing their power. Simple as that. But as soon as you challenge that, you get 50, 60-year-olds and old people who haven't experienced it. Most of the time it'll be white people because they haven't experienced the police force the way other people have and the privilege they've enjoyed. You know, more time it'll be older people, 50, 60, who love royalists and love conservatives and don't see anything wrong with anything this country does, and they'll just, oh no, we need the police and blue lives matter and all this bollocks. But I am showing you clearly, factually, I don't speak anything other than facts. That's why I'm the realist on YouTube. Factually speaking, the police force are breaking the law consistently. Oh, but this ain't new though. Let's take it back. I'll take you back on a trip down memory lane. Stephen Lawrence. Yeah, I've seen Stephen Lawrence's murderers in the gym when I was 15 years old. That's the type of things we as the black community have to live with. Not only do we actually have to see black people getting murdered daily, whether it's in front of our eyes, whether it's on Twitter, we actually get to see the murderer who got away with it in a gym. That's a trauma, yeah, that white people and any other people will never understand. You don't understand that. You can't understand that trauma. To be reminded how second class you are, to be reminded constantly that you're a second class citizen because you can get racially attacked, racially murdered. The murderer can get away with it, and then you see the murderer in your own gym. Now, what's that got to do with this video? I can tell you what it's got to do with this video. The police failed miserably in that incident. That story, that case, helped bring about police reform. That's how bad it was. That's how bad police corruption was. There was multiple anonymous tips accusing the same 5 people of the crime. Multiple. So why was it that they didn't get, 2 of them didn't get charged until about 14 years later? 3 of them still walking. The rest of them walked. Can't remember how many. There's probably more involved. Now let me read something from an article. This is from an article about the Stephen Lawrence case. The Macpherson report, published in 1999, found initial attempts to catch Mr. Lawrence's killers were hampered by incompetence and institutional racism in the Metropolitan Police. That was in 1999. How funny is it that in 2021, a report came out dismissing the existence of institutional racism? Only 6 months after it became spoken about. Me and my friends knew what institutional racism was a decade ago. We've been talking in our group chats for 10, 15 years about this. But as soon as institutional racism became highlighted to the wider public, and I mean white people, I never heard white people use the words institutional racism in my life. White people had never heard the words institutional and racism in the same sentence in their entire existence. But when George Floyd died, it highlighted what institutional racism is, not just calling someone an N-word and this and this. It's actually deep-rooted within the hierarchy, within the structure. How funny is it that 6 months after institutional racism became known about, a report comes out dismissing it? But there's actual factual reports from 1999 exposing institutional racism then. And this is what I'm saying. This is the problem with having an IQ like mine and being perceptive like me. Unfortunately, I might be smart enough to know all these things and expose all these things, but I'm also smart enough to realise that nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change until the people in power die off, literally. So all your high police constables, all your high governments, all your people, all those people that are racist and ignorant, who are like 60s, 70s, whatever, they just need to die off. The fact that every generation is getting more soft. The good thing about that is that we're getting further away from that type of thinking. They just need to die off, essentially. All those racist people just need to die off or suffer an unfortunate accident. You know, everyone's there. Now, I'm just going to end on this. George Floyd died in 2020. We're currently in the middle of his killer's trial. Derek Chauvin, whatever his dickhead name is, as I said at the start. While his trial was going on, 10 miles down the road, another black man got murdered. There is riots 10 miles down the road for the same thing. What more can you see? What more do you need? How many thousands of people have to die daily, have to die weekly, have to die monthly, have to die for not complying? For it to make sense in your mind that the world is institutionally racist, that white privilege does exist. Like, what do I have to gain by saying that? If I had privilege, I would admit it. I have male privilege, I have light skin privilege, mixed race privilege, because it's weird because some people fetishize that. How hard was that? How hard was that for me to admit that? So why is it that so many people are so obnoxious, so entitled, that they can't look at themselves and they can't look at their own race and can't look at their own demographic and think, you know what, there is a problem within this. A lot of white people are racist. A lot of police are corrupt. You know what? I should be the one that exposes this. I should be the one that challenges this. But no, everyone gets so mad at the accusation of corruption, at the accusation of racism, rather than racism itself. Because people with privilege, they don't want to admit they've got privilege over someone else. They don't want to admit that someone else might have it harder than them. Because we think it's a competition. If I had it easy, I would tell you. Simple as that. If I had it easy in this life, I would tell you. I can tell you the benefits I've had. My mum's always done a lot to put food on the table. We ain't ever been broke like that. You know, anyone's there in terms of food and a roof. I understand my certain privileges I've had. I also know when it's not. Do you know what I'm saying? I can also tell you multiple things that I have not enjoyed a privilege with. Way too many traumatic things that have affected this mentality to this day. But that's the difference between me and these sheep. So decide what person you are, innit? Decide what person you are. Are you a sheep that cannot think for yourself? Or are you someone that actually challenges what you see? The world we have around us it wasn't just designed that way. It has evolved that way over years and years and years. But yet, people just seem to believe what they hear and read, whether it's vaccine, this. You seem to believe that everyone has, and governments have, and police have your best interest at heart. They don't. And that's what's so funny about this. They don't. These people are human beings as well. Morally corrupt, the same way I am, the same way I can lie, and the same way I can tell the truth. Police, judges, doctors, they can all do the same thing. Start thinking for yourself and stop listening to what the media tells you. Why has the media not spoken about nonsense in the police force, institutional racism in the police force, abuse of power in the police force? I've done that right now in a video. I've done that right here, right now in a video. But yeah, I'm the only one doing it. But I suppose not everyone can be real like that. So anyway, let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.